The HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is powered by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online Gundog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished Gundog. Visit CornerstoneGundogAcademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced Gundog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. Out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With balanced fat and protein to support peak condition, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the pavement ends and the truck doors swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything. Strong, focused, ready for anything? That's a Eukanuba dog. Since 1898, Old Town has been building the most advanced, quality watercraft products to give you the very best experience on the water. Whether you're hunting, fishing, or enjoying a relaxing paddle on the lake, there's a boat for every type of adventurer. If you haven't seen it, check out their newest offering, the new Go Watercraft designed to function as your boat, blind, and retriever. The easy-to-conceal, 11-foot 9-inch, 56-pound Solo Sportsman is the ideal craft for those in search of a stable, lightweight craft that's easy to paddle and even easier to transport or stash. Designed with the hunter and angler in mind, the Solo Sportsman is equipped with thoughtful shell, tackle, and tool storage, a comfortable and adjustable seat and foot braces, an accessory track, and rod holders. Check it out at oldtowncanoe.com/sportsman. Gunner kennels are engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner in a category all its own. They were started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything that they do. Gunner's dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunner.com.
All right, ladies and gents, we have a guest today that is no stranger to the show, Mr. Barton Ramsey. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm hanging out at home, working from home today, and great to be chatting with you again. I feel like it's been a little while.
Dude, I was looking back and I was like, we talked about the whole impact on businesses and COVID with Ryan Bassham, and that was on April 3rd. That was over 5 months ago.
Oh, gosh. And how little did we know, you know? I mean, it's April. You're thinking, boy, I hope this blows over quickly. And here we are in August, and it's still, you know, much bigger than it even was in April. Just such a dominating thing. So, yeah, that's wild.
Impacting everyone. We're all talking about flatten the curve and, you know, hopefully back to normal in no time, but that's not the case. But I did see a post where 2 of your kids are back to school. Is that full-time or is there some virtual learning there?
Yeah, full-time. You know, we did the virtual deal even when I was talking to you guys last. We did virtual to end the semester, and then we kind of kept things going through the summer, and then we are back in school. My older 2 go to a private school in Tupelo. They started back on Wednesday, whenever that was, August 4th or 5th or something like that, and they did half days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the next week on Monday they started full time. So 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, the whole school, elementary all the way up through high school. High school has some more strenuous restrictions and whatnot. But yeah, they're back. They're checking temps every day before they go in. They've got to wear masks when they travel around the school, and but they're loving it. They're super super stoked to be back. And then my youngest, who's at home with me today, she will be going back on the 18th. So she's not too far, and she just goes to a little private kindergarten. So,
nice.
Yep, Mississippi blazing that trail, you know.
Yeah, well,
seeing what it's like.
Currently, my county is green. We're green phase, and we're supposed to be going back September 2nd, I believe, and it's full time. And just I think 2 days ago, the governor and the health department of our state recommended that we do a part virtual, but I think that at least our county is going forward with a full time, unless it turns into yellow phase, and then it'll be part time, and then red phase, everything will be at home. But I know Josh is down in Virginia, and they are already into the new year of fully virtual. So,
oh wow.
It's just,
man,
it's crazy.
Virtual would be really, really tough. I mean, you got people that work, you know, out of the home full time, and now all of a sudden you're tasked with being your kid's teacher.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. I'm also interested to know what they do with taxes with schools, teachers, all that stuff.
Well, I
That's
know I've been reading some up here for the virtual learning. It's some of the taxes that are paid, like the school taxes that are paid, will go to the virtual centers now. So,
yeah,
we
yeah,
have a bunch that are going that way, and I don't know what the best is, because I have a feeling within like 3 weeks, if anyone gets it into school, then it's going to be yellow phase or red phase, and then we're going to end up being at home. So should you set
yeah.
it up from the start, or just, go with the flow? So I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy time. I just wish, you know, I wish we were back to normal in our town, just complaining about a roundabout that they put in, and people complaining about how many crashes there were going to be, which I don't think there have been any, but it
Yeah,
makes you think about how days were, and just it's freaking nuts. But man, it is good to talk to you, and see,
yeah.
you looks like you have a normal summer going on, and I think the first thing I want to ask you about is this meat aging process that you have,
Oh
and
man,
the
yeah,
food. Like I look at your food and just drool pretty much every night. 'Cause,
man. Thank you. So yeah, we obviously I like to cook, and like we share a lot of our personal or my personal story on my Instagram story, which started really just for like folks like my grandma to kind of keep up with what we're doing. But I do get a lot of questions, especially about the food. And my dad got me the steak ager, which will age different cuts of steak, dry age, as well as it has a separate setting where you can do charcuterie on it. So you can do like
mm,
the sausages and that kind of stuff. So, um, dry aging is an interesting process. It can be done in a refrigerator. It can be done, just in an open air, cool area. There's lots of different ways to do it, but essentially, what that dry ager does is it speeds up the process by moving air, circulating air through there at a consistent rate and keeping the humidity at a consistent rate while it's all a cool temperature. So if I go to like my local butcher shop here, Neon Pig, owned by a good friend of mine, if I go to his place, I'm looking at ribeyes, and I like one that's been there for maybe 15 days, 18 days in his shelf there. The same taste on my dry ager would be around like 5 or 6 days.
mm.
It's less than half the time. So if you age it for like 20, 28 days in my dry ager, you're going to be cutting like mold off of it.
Oh,
it's
jeez.
so yeah, you got to definitely you have to have a taste for it. I've been just aging mostly ribeyes. I did a fillet, and I did a real small cut of a ribeye. We call them Delmonicos. Um, but mostly just been doing bone in and boneless whole ribeyes.
Mm.
And it's definitely a different taste, and you lose a lot of water weight out of the steak, which is pretty interesting. If I put in a 15-pound ribeye and 15 days, I can expect that thing to weigh around 11 and a half, maybe 12 pounds.
Wow.
So the water weight's taken out. And yeah, I like regular steaks too. I like all different types of steaks, but it's been pretty fun to mess around with this. It's
So
definitely I don't know how to describe it, like a heavier taste to the steak.
and that
Yeah.
when you age it like that, there's like enzymes that break it down a little bit more. Is it more tender that way, even with the water weight lost?
Um, it's not it's not any less tender and I think how tender a steak is depends a lot more on how you cook it.
Yeah.
And what cut it is. Like I'm not a New York strip guy because I don't think I like how the fat breaks down in the meat in the cooking process of a ribeye and makes it tender. Um, but no, it's not any less tender at all. I guess you could age it so dry that it would become like a jerky,
Right.
but and it definitely has that element around the very outside of the steak, almost like a crust. But yeah, it's interesting. And like there's so many different ways to age steaks. So it's just one way, and I'm going to experiment with some other ones. I know one of the best cooks I know is Brian Pilgreen, who cooks at
Oh
Falco,
yeah.
and Brian serves a ribeye. I'm sure you've had it. And there's a couple different ways that Brian cooks it, but when the guests show up, he has a particular way he cooks it. That ribeye that he's cooking has been wet aged, so it essentially you literally leave it in the wrapping that they're in the grocery store because that's vacuum sealed, so germs aren't like getting in there. And I want to say his steaks are usually in there for 45 days. I think is how long they've been in there. So you're thinking to yourself like, the expiration date is X. Well, with steaks, that doesn't really mean anything, to be honest. So his are usually like 3, 4, 5 weeks past the expiration date, wet aged. And I'm sure you've had them. They're fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try a little bit of that and try some different stuff.
I don't know if he's ever cooked a bad meal.
Man,
Everything
that
out there is
dude,
intense.
he's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So do you end up like staggering your meat in there as far as what you're I mean, that's the ultimate meal prepping, right? You're talking 6 days out and
Yeah, I do kind of. Well, so when I first got it, I put a ribeye, a part of a ribeye in there, and then I bought another one and I put it in there a few days later, and then I put a third chunk in there a few days later, and I waited until the third one had been in there for 5 days. So I had like a 5 day age, a 9 day age, and like a 14 day age, and I cut one steak from each of them and cooked them just to kind of see what the difference was,
yeah.
and then I waited a few more days and cut one more steak from each of them. And so, yeah, I stagger it out, but mostly like we're kind of fly by the seat of our pants. Like we had Taco Bell last night. You know what I mean? We don't cook these huge elaborate meals every night, but we do try like a couple nights a week to cook at home. And it's mostly just like, all right, what meat is around and what can we put with it? And we just try to keep stocked up the best we can to cook it. Um, so yeah.
No, that's good stuff. And I do enjoy following that and just seeing them like, man, I think I might go to the store and get some stuff just just to cook a nice meal like that. But hey, moving on from cooking, how about a shout out to your guys' additional venture and product for the CGA group, which the Build From Here podcast that you guys brought
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Now we're competitors, I guess.
Yeah. So,
In
no,
the
and
podcast sphere.
it's funny because I used to text you all the time, and it probably just got super annoying because we have questions to get in our listeners group, and one is, do you listen to the podcast, and what's your favorite episode? And when it becomes 70% our dog training or anything with Barton Ramsey on it, then I would text you those all the time, and I'm like, finally, all right, I think he gets the point. So, it's been a few years, and you guys, started pumping some out. So,
Yeah.
go ahead and talk
So
about that.
yeah, I mean the goal, and I'll keep it relatively short, but the goal was all right, so Josh handles a ton of the um Cornerstone back end stuff that you don't see. So, somebody has a question, somebody has an issue, whether it's like, hey, my login's not working, or hey, my dog's not working, whatever it is. Josh handles a lot of that, and he does a fantastic job with it. And Keith and I noticed like some of the conversations that he was having, we were like, man, this conversation about this particular training issue would really benefit all of our members inside Cornerstone. So Keith had the idea of recording them and launching a podcast, and it's not it's not necessarily episodes. We're not out looking for guests that have some sort of profile or notoriety or anything like that. It's just literally recording phone conversations with Cornerstone members where we discuss. Mostly Josh. I hop on every other one or so, but mostly Josh discusses the training issues that those guys are facing, some successes that they have found, some of their favorite parts, and we do tell a little bit of their backstory so people are familiar, and then how we would navigate through some of their issues, and the goal is that we would go back in 3-6 months time to a lot of those guys and do a second episode with them and say, or a second call with them and say, hey, how did it work? I mean, what's the success? What's the struggle now? And just sort of have this, because the content's never ending in that way for us, because everyone has different struggles, but in so many ways everyone's struggles are similar. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's a great idea from those guys. I'm excited to be a part, and mostly I hope that it benefits people that are inside and not even in Cornerstone. I hope that people can listen and be better dog trainers just from hearing from others on stuff they struggled with.
Right. And I mean, the program to start is huge and so much information. And then you have the 52 plus, which is, step by step every week going through. And now, and I saw a post on Cornerstone. A guy had a dog that was coming back and wouldn't stop, circling around. And, a lot of people were asking questions, how old, and, just the amount of time that takes for someone to answer back. And then you get more responses. And, if that was on a phone conversation and you guys put that out on a podcast for other people to listen to, it's just that much more information and that much more helpful to everyone out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a lot. So the more resources, the better, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So another post I saw, which as we talked about, I've watched you have a fun summer out on a lake and doing all your skiing and surfing and all that fun stuff. And one of your latest posts was getting back into the training. So how's that going? And, what was different about this summer that made you take a break a little bit?
Well, I did train through the summer. It's interesting. I probably didn't plan, maybe don't even need to share this, but, with the bigger Southern Oak gets and the bigger Cornerstone has gotten, I have a decent amount of followers on my personal Instagram account. I can't remember what it is, but it's enough. Considering my personal Instagram account is basically like an all out, like just dad account.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think people probably follow me and then like, oh man, this is boring. Like this, like I'm not posting. I think people maybe expect all hunting and all dogs and all that. And so it's been really interesting this summer to hear, like, I don't want to say trash talk, but there's definitely been people that are like, this dude just like goes out in the lake and rides his bicycle with his kids and like, is he even a dog trainer? And it's really funny how people can watch your Instagram story and then believe that they know what happens, throughout every aspect of your life.
Wait, are you not supposed to have a life outside of work?
Yeah. Right? Or people just think like you can't do two things that don't normally seem like they would go together. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, well, BMX and extreme sports, and I thought you were a hunter. I'm like, all right, whatever. Anyway, that's been really funny, just the conversations that have come from around that. But I don't have a ton of client dogs intentionally. Client dogs, my trainers that work for Southern Oak with us on our team, they have most of the client dogs. They devote a lot more time to it. And honestly, a lot more ability for some of them, man. I would never pretend that I can train dogs as well as some of my guys. Wally comes to mind. He's fantastic. And those are the guys, I essentially brought guys on my team that I'm the guy that calls them when I have an issue, Mm-hmm. We have a collective group and we work together. I do have a handful of client dogs that I've been working with this summer, and it's mostly been youngsters that are just now getting to where we're working through big boy stuff, and that's really fun. But my personal dogs, the ones that I usually have on the Instagram and that usually just sort of showcase out working, I did a few trips. I went down and did a trip and a podcast down in Natchez, which was really fun, with my buddy Aaron Davis. And I did some training early on, and it started getting hot. And there's a couple things. Most of the dogs that I work are my boys, and heat is not good for their semen production. So getting them overheated equals not being able to produce litters. In fact, we've had several throughout the years where in the middle of the summer, all of a sudden they just have nothing. So they have to take 3 months to rebuild, and that costs quite a bit to us. So mid-June, the boys got hot working. Everyone was fine, but I was like, you know what? Like, my dogs aren't going to hunt until September. they're all running really clean. All the girls are being trained here by one of our kennel managers, Chris. He's working most of the girls 4 or 5 days a week. After he gets done airing and cleaning, I trained hard from February to April, May with the girls. So I was like, everyone's in fantastic working condition. Like, everyone's happy. It's hot. They're wearing a fur coat. I'm just going to take some time away from like coming down here and working them. So I think in July, I've trained my dogs maybe 2 or 3 times. And my client dogs, I trained a bunch. And then now that at the end of July, we had a good training session. And now that August is here, I'm like, all right, I'm headed down to shoot some teal. We've got a big dove hunt lined up here the first weekend in September. It's like, all right, let's see how they're doing. Let's get them back in shape. And it's been awesome because, Cedar, Bruno, Red, some of the younger dogs I've got, Vader, and a client dog named Fred, like they haven't skipped a beat. Like I go back out, I'll let Corey set up. Corey's notorious for like saying he's going to set up something simple and setting up something that's just majorly complex and difficult. And I let Corey set stuff up, and they're crushing it. And it's like we didn't take any time off, so it's nice to have a little break, spend that extra time with my kids, sort of invest in the end of summer with them. And then now that hunting seasons are rolling up, I'm hitting the ground running, and honestly still just trying to plan it around the weather. Like if it's a cool day and it looks like we're going to have some good wind, I'm like, all right, let's train dogs today. But, yesterday it was burning up, it was over 100 all day. So I'm just not going out and working dogs in that when I don't have to. It's different for guys that, you're paying a guy to train your dog. You expect them to be out working and getting up at 4 a.m. and being ready at 5:30 to start the first dog. And I'm just not in that position right now. So taking advantage of a little air conditioning and a little cool water.
Yeah, I was going to say it has to be hot down there still.
It's hot. Yeah, it's hot.
Because you guys, probably even through September, you're probably still in the 90s, aren't you?
Yeah, last year, the last day that we took our boat to the lake was October the 10th, and we could have gone longer, but we had a beach trip after that. So after that, it was cool enough to need a wetsuit, but my swimming pool, the kids will be jumping in the pool after school until mid-October. It's definitely, August is brutal. But August and September usually have more of these little cool spells that come through, and June and July are just kind of consistently in the 90s, so we'll see. I'm ready for that first morning, waking up and feeling like maybe I need to go put a hoodie on, like I can't wait for that. I can't wait.
And I think, going back to your work life, balance, I don't know if people understand how much you're gone during hunting season. You're hauling all around and traveling, putting thousands of miles on a truck and trailer, and
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a huge balance game. I'm very blessed to be able to I worked hard to be where I am, and my kids are also a really fun age. They're 9, 7, and 5, and it's easy. At this point, spending time with them is always fun. It's not as much work. And they don't get to go on all my trips. They don't see me as much. I'm not able to run carpool. I had a guy on Facebook at some point in the spring. Like, I just was helping a guy out with a training question, and this guy was like, what do you know? All you do is run carpool and go to the lake. And I was like, look, man, I get to run carpool with my kids, and I'm so thankful for that. I wouldn't change a thing. 'Cause when I'm gone on trips, I'm having fun. Don't get me wrong. I love my job. I get to travel and hunt, but it's not. When you've been on some trips, I think we were at Falco together, and I have a blast, but everyone else goes in and grabs a cocktail and sits down to watch football, and I'm like, I got to go let the dogs out. I got to clean the trailer out. I had this dog have an accident in the trailer, or this puppy's got to be trained, or wait, I got to train all 5 of these. It's never like just a relaxing, take a trip. I work my tail off in the fall and the winter, traveling and promoting and hunting and training and all that. So definitely try to make up for it the rest of the year and spend time with family, and super thankful that I get to do that. It's super fun.
It's funny too, because, and I think, a couple of those hunts that we did, and, you'd go out and, like you said, everyone's in there sitting eating, and I came out and watched what you were doing with the dogs and working them a little bit, and it's exhausting just to go on a hunt. When you're traveling halfway or all the way across the country, and I mean you're driving it, so it's not like I'm flying. I flew out, but it's still early mornings and late nights, and you're talking to people that you don't see all the time or just met, and trying to get to know people, and I mean it's a lot. It's very exhausting.
Yes,
so.
it is. It's a lot. Getting up, the alarm goes off. I think I went on a hunt one morning with you, and I had a roommate that I couldn't wake up, and had to drag him out of bed. He was on the struggle bus, but I know there's this like, how late can I sleep and just walk out with my gear and get in the truck and go hunt? Everyone thinks it. You know what I mean? It's the rare guy that wakes up at 3:30 and just his eyes open, he can't go back to sleep. But that's pretty rare, especially on some of these trips. But I'm like, before, what time do I have to go out so that I can have everyone aired, puppies fed, and everything cleaned up before any other vehicles drive down here?
Yep.
Because I don't want to risk a dog getting accidentally struck at 4 a.m. by a vehicle. So, yeah.
And you're taking how many dogs? Like, you take what, 8, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8 dogs?
No, I take anywhere from 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
My setup, I have 2 gunner kennels and a 12-hole trailer. So I can hold 14, but I always have a spare hole in the trailer in case there's a mess. And then I have a hole in the trailer that I just have always used for, like I put my waders, my 2 bags, and all that in that hole. So I kind of have a cubby, I would say, that I use for some of my gear. So yeah, I usually have 10 dogs average, and I have a few puppies. Like right now, one of the pups I'm working is named Ice. Super pup. He was actually with me, probably not actually. Yeah, he was with me on that Falco trip. He was 8 weeks old. It was his first trip.
Yeah.
So I had Ice and Boone. Yeah, those little dudes went all over the country with me. So now when it's time to go train and I'm like, hey, get in the trailer, Ice is like, heck yeah. Like, we're going somewhere cool. And he was socialized. When we go out in the field and there's decoys, he's like, yeah, I've seen these since I was 8 weeks. I've been all over. So I always have a couple puppies with me that are kind of learning the ropes, and then a couple intermediate dogs that I will maybe take hunting, but definitely train in the afternoons. And then I have, my boys that I hunt with. So that's typically how it works.
Yeah. So you're up before everyone. You don't get to sit down and eat with everyone all the time because you're airing afterwards. And then, if you do a evening hunt, then you're right back at it. So it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's also work, which I appreciate.
Well, hey, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trade it. I can tell you that.
Right.
I wouldn't trade it.
But I got to witness that, and I'm like, that's another step, right? And that's a lot going on. So what, we're talking about hunts. What do you have planned this fall, and are you worried about anything with the whole COVID situation?
No, I'm not worried right now, regarding just my particular schedule. I think hunting will be fine here. They just shut down field trials in the UK for the most part, canceled the championship this year. So it's definitely impacting over there. Over here, I don't think it will have as much of an impact on hunting per se, unless there's some travel restrictions. But even then, it's difficult to even enforce those, honestly, in the U.S. But going to dove hunt opening weekend here, and the next weekend I'm going to Texas teal with the Lifetime guys, and super excited to be down there with those guys. My buddy Brian Mallett, lots of friends going to be down there. Corey's going this year. Actually taking my whole family with me because my in-laws live in Corpus Christi. So Bethany and the kids are going to go spend that weekend with her parents while we shoot teal. So excited about that. After that, I don't know. I've got a lot of maybes. And so that will include some trips to the Midwest, especially up to go hunt in Oklahoma and Kansas. Again, we'll definitely hunt with the grind, probably with Ben, hopefully with Ben, and maybe make up a little bit for a crazy trip to Ben's last year, which we'll talk more about in a minute. And then I've got trip booked, a Cornerstone trip booked in Oklahoma/Kansas with the Salt Plains guys at their new lodge at the end of the season. So I'm going to close out duck season there, and then I'm going to hang out and do a late season goose hunt in Oklahoma and Kansas as well. So I've got the very beginning planned and the end planned. In the middle, I don't know. Honestly, hope to spend a lot of time in Arkansas with my buddy Connor Reddick at Wild Wings and standing against a tree hunting a couple dogs there with him. That's what I'm probably most looking forward to.
Beautiful.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then I was telling you, we had Dustin Jones on last night, and he said that they're set up nice, and they're building that store and building, and
yep.
Hopefully we can get out there. So
that's they have a sweet spot, man. It's hard to find better guys than Dustin and Kyle too. They're just salt of the earth guys, and their spot is killer. And I love Dustin because he's so simple and practical and always kind. And then I love Kyle because he's probably a little bit like me in some ways, and even probably a little more extra. And so I love Kyle's like, hey, I know it's only 300 yards to this spot, but let's take the Hummer. And then when we get there, like, really, we could wade to this hole, but we should probably take the airboat. It's like, I love how that bro does all that stuff, man. He is super, super cool to be around. And if you can make it out to their spot, it's a really, 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 they've got a gem of a spot for their location for sure.
Yeah. And then, we were supposed to go to Canada here like first week of September. I guess we'll know in 9 days if they extend that moratorium or not. So
it's been interesting. A lot of guides have canceled. A lot of guys have said they're not going to do it. And then I've got some clients who guide up there who've canceled. And it's I was supposed to go in October and deliver a pup, and we've had to change all the plans for that. So
yeah. And it's going to be fun to watch the migration and just the effect of not having everyone up there. But I don't know.
I don't think it's going to have a huge effect on numbers, like from a hunters and duck goose number standpoint. Like, we just don't have that big of an impact. It's big, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But not, we don't like truly thin the flock by shooting them. You know what I mean? But we do move them with pressure, but not nearly as much as water. I mean, as weather.
Yep.
I think the most interesting part will be the pressure and how it impacts the northernmost states. I would expect North Dakota to be insane.
Connor should open up a guide service up there.
Well, Connie, when we were there at Connors, the first year I went to Connors, it was snowing. We had a buddy from California with us picking up his dog for the first time. So he was like, it was, we were all out of staters, but we were with Connor hunting Connor's land, and the weather was just right. And we spent less time scouting. We knew where the birds were on Connor's, and more time keeping people off of Connor's land. His granddad was calling us every hour, like, hey, there's a truck here at the farm. They want to hunt this field. What do I tell them? Like, it was constant. It's cool. The birds were there, but it's definitely like when you drive, you see a ton of out-of-staters, scouting. I'm not against that. Don't get me wrong. It's waterfowling, but it's definitely going to be amped up a little bit this year with people unable to go to Canada.
Yeah. I actually have a picture on my wall. I'm looking at it right now of that puppy with blood running down the middle of his face. A
rudder dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was that hunt. That picture, I think, was either taken by Connor or Ben Peterson.
Yeah, this is the one Connor took.
Yeah. So that was actually at Ben's place we were hunting closer to Bismarck and had a cornfield with geese in it. They were copping off the river. And it was so brutally cold that day. And Rudder had never seen Canada goose ever. So that was his first experience. And it was great because the first one, it was like, how do I pick this up? And about 6 geese later, he was just tackling them. And and he was still a young dog. He's only like a year old. He was small. So it was really, really fun. That was a fun hunt. Really fun.
Yeah, it shows from what he's wearing for war paint there.
Quite
But
a bit of war paint
yeah,
on there. Yeah, I think I posted a war paint picture today. So
yeah, I
yeah,
saw
there
that. I
was
was like,
quite a
that
bit.
is awesome. So what happened at in Kansas that you wanted to talk about?
All right, we'll end with this. And then my daughter has been very quiet, so I'm
Yeah,
nervous what I'm going to
she's
find when
doing
I
well.
leave. So yeah, I
Strawberry
was
milk all over the house.
yeah. So I used to, I used to be a teaching pastor and a student pastor, and like every story that was good, I'd use for like an illustration for something, And I do happen to find myself in the midst of weird situations sometimes and crazy things, but I think a lot of people do. You just got to remember it. And I had something happen at the end of the season, and I think it was kind of masked by the fact that I went to Ben's place and we had a terrible, terrible, terrible couple days trying to film the grind. And if you know Ben Webster, you know that does not happen. In
Hmm.
fact, I was trying to comfort Ben by saying, "Hey, man, bad hunts happen." And his response was, "Not here, they don't."
Yep. No, he
And
gets
he means
really
it, And I will
yeah.
say, I'm friends with a lot of guides out there, and they all have things that they do great. And I love every one of them and support every one of them. I don't know anyone who's a better killer than Ben Webster.
Yep.
That dude knows how to put people on birds, period. So we were having a struggle on late season goose. And as soon as we left, the clouds moved out and everyone started killing again. But we weren't killing anything, and we had this morning, and it was just, we thought a road was going to be frozen or dry or whatever, and it wasn't. And so before we ever even got to the field, we had a trailer, a truck, and a four-wheeler stuck. We get all that out, get to the field, everyone's tension level is pretty high, and I'm not in charge. I'm an Enneagram type 8, very strong 8, wing 7, and so like I'm trying to like help the morale, and it's just not working. Everyone's basically just like, this is awful. And we're kind of set up it was a tough scouting situation. There was really not a way to scout clearly without bumping the birds, so we were set up, and when the light came up, we realized like, oh shoot, we need to be 100 yards in front of us up this hill. And sure enough, that's where all the birds, they're trying to go. And we were like, let's sneak out of here and leave them and wait and see what happens later. So we do that, and we're walking, and it's me and one of Ben's guides and Max Barta and maybe Sean and Sean Weaver. And we're it's all good. It's hunting. We're just walking. And man, I've been hunting for multiple days on this trip. Everyone's kind of tired, and we had some crazy stuff happen. And this truck rolls up, and this guy is, he's mad. He's very mad, and he's basically asking us what in the world we're doing here. And Ben's guide, I can't remember which guide it was, Colby maybe, I don't remember, but he handled it really, really well. He was like, "Hey, sir, we're here hunting on this field right here, and who gave you permission?" And truthfully, I don't want to make fun of anyone. I'm not making fun of anyone at all. But the guy was a farmer, and he had a severe stutter, so he couldn't really get his sentences out. So we're like standing at this guy's window, and he's trying to say, "You boys shouldn't be here," but it's taken him like 3 minutes to say that. And no one's laughing. Everyone's like, let's just keep him calm and get out of here. So he basically says he's mad because there's mud clogs, like mud on the road. And, this is public county roads. They're going to come grade them after a rain anyway. And we're like, "Hey, sir, so the whole rest of the walk back to the truck, me and the guys are kicking the big dirt clods like out of the road. Get back to the truck, and I did what I always do, man. I let my dogs out, and Max and Sean are filming the dogs kind of running around and playing. I had a handful of puppies with me, some very young puppies. I had little Ice Dog with me, and then my crew. I want to say there were probably 8 or 9 dogs. I had my wife's dog, Wella, and they're all running around, and we're at an intersection of these country roads. And man, I had this moment where I heard a vehicle, and I looked down from where we had come from and I mean, we're hunting a field where we've got full permission. The farmer owns fields on both sides of the road. We've talked to the farmer. The farmer came by during our hunt and like gave us a high five. So like we're in good standing. And I look, and here comes this truck with the guy who was mad at us. And I've got dogs on both sides of the road,
Ooh.
puppies running under my trailer, and a lot of guys. There's like 8 or 9 of us just standing around talking. And as the driver gets closer, he starts to accelerate.
Ugh.
And I realize what's going on. And I think the guy was a little bit out of his mind, truthfully. But I realize what's going on, and I realize this dude is like trying to run over the dogs.
What?
And I've got them on both sides of the road. And so like typically at that point you call the dogs to you and run away, so the dogs will follow you. The problem is I have dogs on both sides of the road. So if I call them, they're going to run right in front of him. So I'm like, in my mind, all the scenarios, he's going to hit the puppies. He's going to hit one of the mom's, going to hit one of the boys. Like as he's passing these dogs, this guy's probably going about 45 miles an hour on a country road. My trailer's parked on the side of the road. So I take off running in the middle of the road. 3 or 4 guys are screaming at this point, stop, hey guys, stop. And I run out into the road next to my trailer, and he sees me, and I thought he was going to run me over for a second. And at the very last second, he locks up his brakes and slides the vehicle, and simultaneously he hit me. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I was like struck by a car, like run over. He just had slowed down enough to where he hit me hard enough that my hands pushed back. The grill of the truck hit my my sternum and knocked me back about 2 feet. I didn't fall down, but it was loud on the hood. And as he hit me, he ran over Red.
What?
And in my mind, I was thinking, this Red's going to be dead. Because Red let out this loud shrill. And I watched it kind of happen. He ran basically up Red's tail and right off the side of his back, sort of thing. And thankfully, the road was soft enough that all it did was sort of, I guess it was like a small little fracture on his tail. He was better within a few weeks. But you want to talk about an insane moment. As I stop and realize this dude's just struck me with his vehicle and ran over my dog on purpose. I'm standing there and I look, and both of the puppies are running around under this guy's truck. Like, hey, look, it's a truck.
Oh
just
God.
running. And everyone is somewhere between jaw on the floor and yelling. And so I just start saying, hey, we're trying to leave. Hey, we're trying to leave. And scooping dogs up. I've got 2 full grown dogs and a puppy in my arms. And I'm just throwing them in the trailer. Just get them out of this guy's way. And he's yelling a bunch of stuff at me. And I'm not even looking at him. I'm just trying. And a couple of the guys start walking toward the truck. And the guy just hits the gas and takes off. Thankfully, he didn't hit any dogs, but he left. And we're all just standing there man, this just happened. And I'm thinking at first, I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get these dogs out of here before the guy comes back. So I load everything up really quickly and take off. Of course, then, after adrenaline wears off, reality sets in. And thankfully, everyone was fairly level headed. And my whole goal was just let's not get a dog run over. Let's take care of this right now. But of course, as I'm driving away, I'm like, I want to kill that guy.
Yeah.
I'm about to go back and find this dude and kill him. Ben wasn't even there. We have to call Ben, and Ben's like, well, how was it? And I was like, well, I got hit by a truck. And it was very bizarre. So you want to talk about insult to injury? You have a day where everything gets stuck on a country road, and then you finally get out there, and the hunt's not going to be that great. And then you have some crazy dude try to run you over with a car, and it was wild.
That's
it
just
was
what would have happened
wild.
if you didn't go out in the middle of the road.
Yeah, he would have run over. It would have been a handful of dogs get hit because, well, I say probably where he stopped, where he hit me, there were probably 3 dogs right behind me. So Cedar was right behind me. Bruno was right behind me. So he probably would have. Who knows, man? Who knows? He was literally aiming for them. And that was really bizarre. Those sort of things are super, super rare, especially it's one thing if you're out like hunting spots you're not supposed to, or if you're just by yourself. But I mean, we were with Ben, we had full permission, written permission from the guy, and I mean, you've been around Ben enough to know, like, nobody is more by the book. You know what I mean? And it was absolutely, absolutely crazy. But it's just one of those deals where there's nothing you really could have done to prevent it or change it. We were super kind and polite and professional. The guy just basically was out of his mind and was mad that we were going down his public county roads, and decided to take it out on me and some dogs, or at least try to. It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'll get messages and people say, "Hey, I'm going hunting with Ben. Is there anything I need to know?" And I tell them, you're not going to mess around when you're hunting. I'll tell you that. Like, he's very by the book, and it's.
Yeah, well, it wasn't Ben's fault.
Right.
Ben was furious, and there were a couple guys that he talked to that had run into this guy out in that area before. So our plan was to let those birds sit and then go back. And Ben was like, "No, like, if that guy's around, we're not going to risk. We're not going to risk an issue." So we found some more and actually managed to have a fairly decent hunt. But yeah, it was a crazy, crazy end to my season. I left there and went to Kansas City, and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl while I was in Kansas City.
Ooh.
And it was a really, really weird ending to my season. It was not how I expected it to go. I mean, and look, like, I'll go hunt with Ben at some point this year, and like, that's the trip when, there's so many great places to hunt and so many great people to hunt with. But whenever I've got it lined up that I'm going to hunt with Ben, that's the trip where I'm like, all right, what dogs need a bunch of retrieves?
Yep.
Because we're about to smash,
Yep.
and that has always been it. And man, it was just a really, really weird thing. Really weird. I didn't want to put it on social media at the time because I was still kind of in shock. I was like, well, and I don't want all the, well, you shouldn't have been in the road. I mean, we're like, you could not see, and there was not a house or farm in sight. We were so far out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, just parked on the side of the road, hanging out. And I was drinking an energy drink, chatting it up, dogs running around, going to the bathroom, and here comes, crazy Farmer John trying to run me over.
Yeah. And it is getting competitive out there, and I'm not saying that guy was hunting or anything like that, but I was out there before Christmas last year, and we were hunting a spot, and this guy was an F-150, and he redlined it by us probably 6 times and just screaming out the window every time. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're going to blow your truck up. Like,
well, that sort of stuff. And this guy, it had nothing to do with the hunting. It had to do with the roads.
Yeah.
However, that sort of junk, like, that is why you if you're out somewhere, you do want to be with someone like Ben, mm-hmm. who I've back in the day hunted with some outfitters out in Kansas, some that are still around and some that aren't, who were notorious, I know now, for hunting on land they did not have permission to hunt on. And won't name any names, but there's been some stuff that goes down and people find themselves and the clients didn't do anything wrong, but they find themselves in some weird situations, Right. Yep. And so it's very fun hunting with guys like Ben, who you're never thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? It's always like, well, obviously Ben's got it locked down, and he understands that this is his livelihood and how important it is to do things right. And anyway, yep. It's
the only thing you're worried about is safety and when the birds are showing up, because everything else is taken care of.
That's it, man. That's it. But it was it. We were just trying to film, the grind. So I was like, boy, we should have filmed that. That would have made for some great TV, man. See, this crazy dude trying to run someone over. I can hear the grind narration right now. Barton and the boys back at the truck and had a little bit of a situation.
Gets ran over. Jeez. Oh man, hey, I appreciate your time. You go be a dad and enjoy the rest of your summer and 100-degree weather down south, and look forward to talking to you again, buddy.
Heck yeah, I enjoyed it, man. Y'all have a good one up there, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
That's going to do it for this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out some of our past episodes, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's the best way for like-minded hunters just like you to find our show. Check us out on social media, check us out over at hpoutdoors.com, and anywhere you can find quality podcast content. That's going to do it for this week. Till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.